Welcome to the Urantia book. What we are trying to cultivate in our mind as advanced spiritualists is a leadership capacity, a leadership mentality, something that can change this world from all of its backwards, twisted ways that's just churning out victims left and right into something that is more harmonious, peaceful, the greater good for the most amount of people on the planet. So it doesn't take a genius in order to see that we're in this wrong paradigm. All one needs to do is open up their newspaper. But it takes a slightly more aware person to see that it is orchestrated this way in order to perpetuate the system so very few can benefit. And that's just something that a leader needs to know on this planet, is what we're up against. Because in knowing that, you can also have sympathy for those who are wrapped up and trapped in it, and not judge them for just being, in this world system of things with all of its evil machinations fully in place for thousands of years. And again, as spiritualists, we can sail right through that. That doesn't have to hold us at all, but we would like to bring others up to our level and allow them to see the shining light through all of this. Now, we're looking, I say that because we're looking at Guatama Siddhartha today. We're going to go into Melchizedek's teachings in the Orient, and I'm going to describe that a little bit. But one of the things that is separating us is these various religious ideologies. Somebody that has a different religion or a different viewpoint philosophically or anything like that, or a different political stance, is not the enemy here. In fact, we don't have any enemies. What we might have is a so-called enemy, somebody that's trying to perpetuate worldwide confusion and have, doesn't matter how many victims they have, how many bombings they do, as long as they can get their billions. That would be our so-called enemy. But they're not really our enemy, because we understand that evil is only relatively real in a time-space world. So, but if we can synthesize and harmonize somebody that might be a Buddhist person and somebody that might be a Christian person, because there's millions in the world, who even knows? I don't know the exact numbers. If we can somehow find a way for them to say, "Oh yeah, no, we can see where we're together," then we will stop this spiritual infighting. And look at your wars happening here, like on Gaza Strip and everything. That's two religious ideologies that have been battling back and forth since the dawn of time, and all this tribalism and so forth. So we're gonna the Urantia book is beautiful in this way, and that's why it is a superhuman revelation, because it is able to synthesize the vastness of not only human thought on this planet, but universe thought on trillions of inhabited planets. So it really takes spiritual deity and divinity, which we have a fragment of us within, in order to access that and approach these from that perspective. So we're looking at Guatama Siddhartha on page 1035. And the background information that one might need to know for this is that this is Melchizedek, who was a being that was sent here in order to make sure the light of truth was not extinguished during these dark ages on the planet. Okay, so superhuman being, but for good. And in fact, he was the third epochal revelation. Jesus of Nazareth was the fourth. This book was the fifth. Take it or leave it. That's not important. That you remember, it's the ideals of deity and divinity that are important. That would be an idea. If you want to say, I don't think Melchizedek came here, well, okay, that's fine. But we at least have to understand there's this seed of spiritual teaching that went throughout various religions at the time. And Melchizedek's teaching was very simple. He just had the idea of faith in God, because there was so scattered at those times. You had a million gods in Hinduism, your Greek, whatever, all this million gods. And he was sent here to just say, no, we have to unity, not uniformity. And so he was trying to just synthesize this faith in one God concept. And that was the only really light that he was, and also, brother and sisterhood and that sort of thing amongst humans. But that was the super simple message, his saving grace of faith in one God. So let's see how that then influenced Guatama Siddhartha. Wow, long spiel today, but let's see. Contemporary with Lao Tzu, I don't know, and Confucius in China, another great teacher of truth arose in India. Gautama Siddhartha was born in the 6th century before Christ in the North Indian province of Nepal. His followers later made it appear that he was the son of a fabulously wealthy ruler, but in truth he was their heir apparent to the throne of a petty chieftain who ruled by sufferance over a small and secluded mountain valley in the southern Himalayas. So why would beings know this? Well, because they were on the planet at the time. So that's the perspective of why this information is able to be so detailed. Okay? Again, take it or leave it. You know, you can believe it or not. I believe it because it all fits for me. And that is one of the key themes that we want to keep in mind. It all has to fit. Gautama formulated those theories which grew into the philosophy of Buddhism after 6 years of the futile practice of yoga. Siddhartha made a determined but unavailing fight against the growing caste system. So he came from this Hindu tradition where they were really like doing this asceticism of starving or laying in thorns and trying to really stretch your body until you're just so uncomfortable that you reach enlightenment and that sort of thing. In its extreme form, okay? Siddhartha made a determined but unavailing fight against the growing caste system. We have this sort of caste system as well with your elite billionaire class and all of that sort of thing. So you can see where his mind was, that he's trying to unwind. In the priest caste system, you know, these beings are the ones that can have your channel to God, and you must pay them tithings and stuff in order to. So you can see, again, a great teacher, all right? There was a lofty sincerity and a unique unselfishness about this young prophet prince that greatly appealed to the men of those days. He detracted from the practice of seeking individual salvation through physical affliction and personal pain. And he exhorted his followers to carry his gospel to all the world. So he was going against this idea of laying in thorns in order, that's the godly path. Because we, in our present state, we realize that we want a spiritual ascension of goodness. We realize that we can learn everything that we need to in the universe simply through self-mastery, but it doesn't need to do self-torture and that sort of thing. Amid the confusion and extreme cult practices of India, the saner and more moderate teachings of Gautama came as a refreshing relief. Okay, we're talking about world change here in this individual. He denounced gods, priests, and their sacrifices. But he too failed to perceive the personality of the one universal. This is such a key thing because he is denouncing gods and he's saying, guys, you know, let's be a little bit more sane about all of this. Why are you lying in a bed of nails? Why are you making all these images and praying to images and doing like a super complicated ritual, etc.? But he failed to perceive the personality. See, that's italicized, super important, of the one universal. So that is his failure, okay? And we know that as we continue on. You'll see. Not believing in the existence of individual human souls, Gautama, of course, made a valiant fight against the time-honored belief in transmigration of the soul. So he was able to, because this transmigration idea was a shackle. It's a shackle if you look at it. That now you're going to have to be a blade of grass and get shat on for the next, 100 years, and then you're going to be a tree, and then you're going to be a ladybug, and then 1,000 years later you're going to be a human, and then you're going to be a human for 4,000 more times, and then eventually, okay, so he did that by saying that there is no soul. But we know that, there is a soul, but it ascends. It's not a redoing process, a reincarnating process. So that's the difference. But he was able to sort that out by saying that there is no soul. Well, his belief that there is no soul. So see how we get there in these roundabout ways, okay? He didn't have the full picture, but he had enough of the picture to point out something that was a shackle. He made a noble effort to deliver men from fear, number one poison on the planet, so very good to his credit, to make them feel at ease and at home in the great universe, but he failed to show them the pathway to the real and supernal home of ascending mortals, paradise, and to the expanding service of eternal existence. So he's saying you're just going to become a drop of water in the ocean when you're done. That's like this, it's not, you're going to continue on as you in the universe and be able to learn more things and develop your personality even more and come in closer contact to God all the way up to paradise, okay? It's confusing. Here, let's read on. Guatama was a real prophet, and he heeded the instruction of the hermit. If he had heeded the instruction of the hermit Godad, he might have aroused all India by the inspiration of the revival of the Salem gospel by salvation of faith. So he got close to changing the world, I guess, but he didn't arouse all India because this salvation of faith was missing. But Godad was descended through a family that had never lost the traditions of the Melchizedek missionary. So Godad was directly influenced by Melchizedek, and therefore he gave these ideas to Guatama. At Benares, Guatama founded his school. Guatama founded his school, and it was during its second year that a pupil, Bautan, imparted to his teacher the traditions of the Salem missionaries about the Melchizedek covenant with Abraham, which is the historical context is that, that was his teacher. Abraham was his pupil. And while Siddhartha did not have a very clear concept of the universal Father, he took an advanced stand. Now this is where he's advanced. On salvation through faith. Simple belief. Do you see? So he had that salvation through faith because that's what Melchizedek was teaching. So he heard that and he's like, yeah, we like the simplicity here in Buddhism. That is a simple belief that we can have, but here is where it gets a little nuanced. He so declared himself before his followers and began sending his student out in groups of 60 to proclaim to the people of India, quote, the glad tidings of free salvation, that all men high and low can attain bliss by faith in righteousness and justice. Now, those, as we read earlier, are the impersonal aspects of God. Justice is an impersonal aspect of deity. Things like love and personality are tied together. That's the personal aspect. So he's encouraging them to have faith in this thing called like karma, for instance. But mercy is more of a personal aspect. So mercy is that your credits far outweigh your debits. Karma would be a perfect system of credits and debits. But mercy is an all-wise personal being saying, oh, I understand why you would have done that. We're going to give you some mercy so you don't have to just tarry around in the same state for this long. We're going to help you ascend because we understand that is what mercy is. So again, there's a breaking of the shackles. Guatama's wife believed her husband's gospel and was the founder of an order of nuns. His son became his successor and greatly extended the cult. Cult just meaning like a religious group. He grasped the new idea of salvation through faith. So again, he's very close on that. He's having salvation through faith, but they're just missing the personality. But in his later years, wavered regarding the Salem gospel, that was Melchizedek's simple gospel of salvation through faith, of divine favor through faith alone, okay? And in his old age, his dying words were, work out your own salvation. Now, this is where it's interesting because we do need to work out our own salvation in the fact that it is up to us whether we want to use free will or not to have a belief in God. If we're not having that, no one is going to coerce us. But once we do, that's the only real step that we need to take in order for our progression to happen, to have that understanding. That's the survival of personality. And again, it's just faith and belief. I could say that a million times to you, and you could say, no, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that. Because eventually, you just have to do it on your own, right? No amount of words. I can't say it in a more flowery way, or I can't use softer words or anything like that. Because eventually, it's going to have to be a choice in your own heart, if you're going to say, you know, I believe there is a God out there, okay? It just comes to that. And you can see, again, you're going to be resurrected because of mercy, and then you can carry on in the universe. This isn't a do it now, or there's a time limit on this sort of thing, unlike man's Christianity, where one needs to go to hell in order to, be punished for eternity and that sort of thing. Let it unfold, relax and flow. Just have that simple concept rattling around. When proclaimed at its best, Guatama's gospel of universal salvation, free from sacrifice, torture, ritual, and priests, was a revolutionary and amazing doctrine for its time. And it came surprisingly near to being a revival of the Salem gospel. It brought succor to millions of despairing souls. See, this is what we want here. This exact quote. This is why we're looking for advanced spirituality here. All the ideas are out there. All the philosophies, the isms, and this sort of stuff is already out there. We're trying to go to that next level, to that heart level, because that is what is going to bring succor, which is happiness and calming, to millions of despairing souls. And notwithstanding its grotesque perversion during the later centuries, that's a key thing to understand, folks. It was perverted grotesquely, and they have a great one-liner about that later on. It still persists as the hope of millions of human beings. There's millions of people that are Buddhists, and they're very advanced. But my understanding of Buddhism is that it's just slightly too confusing. Remember, this was a simple message, this Salem gospel of faith in the divine. Buddhism, when I see Buddhism, I say, okay, are we trying? Are we not trying? Do we meditate? Is that trying? Are we trying not to try? Is Buddha God? Is he not God? Do I carry on after this lifetime? And then the answer to all those questions is, Buddhism. And you're just, oh, okay. And on a level, they are absolutely 100% correct. Because on those absolute levels, you don't have this human mind kind of thing that needs to solve right or wrong and that sort of thing. So it's not denying that. They go on to say that Buddha hit on the absolute, God the absolute, and that's the non-personal level. And it's 100% correct, but this is where the synthesis comes in. That self-mastery is important. That freeing your mind, that clarity of mind, that mind of perfect poise is important in your ascension. But the simple saving message of faith will be for those millions who just will say, you know, I believe. And they don't have to read the Eightfold Path or the this and that. And they don't have to meditate for an hour in a day. And they can just go about their day. And it might take them longer to do self-mastery. That's fine. It might take them into the next life. But they can just simply, when you have that, I just believe, it's just this calming way to say, no, I know it looks crazy. I can't figure out all those intricate problems of the world. But I know it's going to get better. I have that in my heart, that there's a benevolent God out there. He might work in mysterious ways and that sort of thing. And that might not be what you need in your spiritual ascent. You want to do the Eightfold Path. And that's why you're able to do that. You want to do the self-mastery and the meditate and, really kind of contemplate Buddhist thought and non-duality and how does non-duality, settle with the experience that I'm sitting here in my room and you're sitting there watching a TV, but non-duality, and see where it gets. They say it's the highest human philosophy that any man on this planet has ever attained. They go on to say that in another part of this, and we should read these in the next video. But it is a human philosophy. When you go to the heart, then, that's when it becomes spiritual. And that is a faith-based exercise. There's no logical way about that. And in fact, there's no emotional feeling way about that, because emotions are neuropeptides firing off in your brain. So the heart is just a symbol for that. Emotions can be purely of the mind. They can be purely physiochemical reactions. So you might not feel it. And that's why it's called faith and belief. Siddhartha taught far more truth than has survived in the modern cults bearing his name. Modern Buddhism, this is the one-liner, searing, genius Urantia book right here. Modern Buddhism is no more the teachings of Guatama Siddhartha than Christianity, the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Okay? So, Jesus and Nazareth, what is modern Christianity? They're all tied into this Christian nationalism. And they're supporting all these wars and genocides, and let's bigger military, guns, guns, guns. That's all tied in with it too, and that's not the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. And there's just a million different ways but modern Buddhism, keep in mind, you want to go to direction, and if you're going to things like spinning a prayer wheel, wearing a hat, you can do that. Again, this isn't like trying to say anybody's things are wrong or right, but remember that the most important thing about God is that it is within you. Your fragment connection is by going within, which Buddha knew very well. All right, folks. So that's it for the video. Please like and subscribe. Thanks a lot for checking it out, and we'll see you in the next one.